Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop with a fishing report for you for our region for the third week of November. Let you know what's going on in the area. Here we go. So the Rogue is running about 9, just over 9, I think, out of the dam, somewhere around 9 or just below there, just as low as it could possibly be. You know, that translates to about 1,200, I think, at Dodge Bridge, something like that. That's in sort of the upper stretch. It's incredibly clear, it's incredibly cold. I think it's in the kind of high 40s, you know, mid to high 40s, you know, because we have the cooler days, and so the water's coming right out of the dam, and it's just as cold as it can be. So what happens to the fish? What happens to the steelhead? So as I've said before, you know, they get really spooky. So we've had a lot of the same fish in the river that we've had, you know, since August or whatever. So they kind of filter in, and the concentrations keep building, and they just get kind of, when the water goes down, they kind of get into these spots around some of the tributaries that they're going to go spawn in, you know, upstream and downstream, and they just get really hunkered down, and the water starts to go down and get colder, and they get fished over quite a bit, and they just get really, really sheepish. You know, they get really concentrated and hunkered down, and they can get really lockjaw. So it's kind of tough to get them. So as I've said in the past, you know, nymph fishing is really productive at this time, because you can really ambush these fish that are just kind of stuck in these spots, you know, and it can work really well. Swinging's definitely tougher, you know. These fish will still move around, you know, they get uncomfortable, they'll move downstream or upstream or something. And so if if the fish are moving and they're kind of changing their look on things, then you can kind of get them a little bit that way sometimes. So we are still getting them here and there, swinging flies for sure. Knowing where to look for them, you know, targeting them with a bigger sink tip and a decent sized fly is a good tactic right now for swinging flies, but nymphing is really going to carry the day. Now that's not to say we haven't seen some fresh fish. So the fish still have the migratory sense, you know, so we've still got some fish trickling in, but if we had more rain and water, then the fish would move in groups and they'd come up. So now we're seeing like fish kind of trickle in. They'll just trickle in. So, you know, we'll get these kind of darker fish, we'll get hatchery retread fish, and then we'll see like these really bright fish. And so it's like, well, obviously this fish just kind of showed up, or it'll be super hot and it'll just eat a swung fly like mad. And so we get a sense that these are fish that are kind of trickling in, you know, still kind of pushing upriver, but it's certainly harder for them. We will continue to see that. So as long as we stay in this period, which it's looking like we're still kind of seeing that, you know, 7 days out or so, we will continue to see fish kind of trickle in like that. It could go all the way into January, through January, if we stay in a period like this. I really desperately hope that we don't, but if we do, then they'll just kind of keep trickling in, because they just can't get into the tributaries and spawn, so they just get kind of stuck in the river. So anyway, there's a big look at like what to expect on the Rogue, why the fish behave the way they are. It's, you know, we're getting a lot of feedback. Our guides are still fishing a few days here and there, and so we're just, you know, this feedback is all really relevant, and it's really kind of playing out there. So so we're happy to talk to you about you know, where to go, what tactics to use if you're walking in. Please feel free to follow up with us about it. You know, fish in the upper Rogue at this time, you know, with this type of weather system in place. The Holy Water, which is a little trout section on the upper Rogue just above the hatchery up there, that is a good bet right now for streamer fishing. It can really go off the edge. I think you're right on the back edge of some good fishing up there, but I've heard about some decent hatches and some good fish being hit on streamers up there. So I really think your trout spay, your small spay rods, your streamer rods up there is a really good way to fish right now. You know, it's a good way to fish in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, and then maybe try to find a hatch or something in the evening. But the Holy Water can be a very good place to fish right now. It's very low, so you can fish pretty much anywhere you want. It's going to be really cold water, but there can be some really nice trout caught up there this time of year. So I would I would focus on that if you're fishing for trout in the region. That's a good spot. The Klamath right there with the Rogue continues to be kind of the bright spot. It's definitely, you know, as far as producing better days, it's definitely the bright spot in the region right now. And you know, it's typically about a month behind the Rogue as far as the migration of the fish. So the fish are all spread out throughout the whole river now. They're all the way up. They're all the way up around I-5, which is just about 25 minutes to our south here. You know, that whole Iron Gate stretch down through there, you know, all the way down through, you know, the mouths of the Shasta and the Scott and all down there. They're all spread out in there. We're not seeing them kind of in groups too much. They're really kind of spread out, you know, onesie, twosies here and there as far as adults, but we are seeing some nice, productive groups of half-pounders here and there, which is nice. And I have to say they're pretty good size. We've seen some really impressive half-pounders, really healthy fish, and seen some great adults too, really nice adult fish too. And so they're a real surprise, and they can be, it's really kind of what you're looking for. It's a really good fish, and they're around. So that would be good. So I would suggest fishing the Klamath. The Klamath is a good bet. All the same tactics we use for the Rogue. Klamath seems to kind of hang on with swinging flies a little bit better, like that fish is just a bit snappier, or maybe it just doesn't get as much pressure as the Rogue fish. That's probably more what it is, you know. And there's the run's set up really well for swinging flies. So definitely swinging flies can be a great tactic down there all through the winter. The water it'll get cold, it'll get really cold, but not quite as cold as the Rogue, but pretty darn close. So, you know, it's time for sink tips, it's time for moderate sized intruder style flies, you know, and even the smaller ones. We really love that stuff on the Klamath, and it's very productive. Our little hot hair series works very well down there, as it does on the Rogue too. So those are good. Nymphing also is very productive. Tends to work really well down there too. So, you know, nymphing all the obvious water is a really good bet. So, yeah, the Klamath is a very good bet. I think it's 12 or 1300 coming out of the dam. So very typical for this time of year. They might pull it back a little bit. They might increase it a bit. But you know, it should be pretty stable and fish pretty well for the next couple months, I would say. So that's a bright spot. Kind of put the brakes on trout fishing a little bit in certain spots. You know, the McCloud is closed now. Some of the other rivers are closed. The Klamath Basin rivers are closed. The Upper Sacramento, Northern California, probably is one of our favorite winter trout fisheries. It's a really cool place to fish. Fishes a little differently in the wintertime. It's a wonderful place to go walk around. It's kind of a north-south direction. Gets a lot of sun in the summer, so you can get some really nice, comfortable, winter, some really nice, comfortable winter days down there for fishing. It's really just kind of a nymph fishery, nymph factory down there in the winter, and that can work really well. Love to talk to you about fishing down there this time of year. It's really one of our favorite places to trout fish, but that's probably kind of what I would be doing if I was going trout fishing at this time of year, besides the holy water. So that's a good bet. And we also start thinking about winter steelhead. So winter steelhead and fishing the coast, we start thinking about that quite a bit this time of year. So about another, let's see, what is it, mid-November. So we're gonna start seeing salmon probably, you know, and this is all really contingent on rain and what goes on, but we're gonna start seeing salmon within the next, you know, 2 or 3 weeks probably, or even sooner. And then that'll transition into steelhead. They have a bit of an overlap, and then we'll be fishing winter steelhead through the first of the year. So, boy, the little streams, the moderate streams, the Smith, things like that can really take a hit in low water and can just be really hard to fish. You know, if we continue with this setup, I'd really look at the bigger rivers like the lower Rogue, even the lower Umpqua. Those can be really cool fisheries, you know, when the water's low. The fish will they'll trickle in, and they won't move as fast as they will on more water. It can be a little more cagey because the water's so low, but but it can be a lot of fun fishing down there. And the fish will have to come in depending on the weather. So some of those smaller systems, if we get little shots of rain, even just a little bit, it can really get those fish moving. So we're going to be talking about winter steelhead a little bit more on the coast, and then as they start making their way up the road pretty soon. So look forward to more reports on that. But that's just a heads up that we're starting to think about it. So that's what we're seeing, that's what we're doing, that's what we're looking forward to for the next couple months as we go through the holidays into the first of the year. Still a lot to do in this region, a lot of places to fish. We're really fortunate to have them. So let's all pray for a bit of rain as we go on, and we'll look forward to talking to you. As always, if you want some more current feedback, please feel free to give us a call, and we're happy to help with that. So appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next time.